Hello, everyone. Week 8 of the regular season. Playoffs next week, and it finally, I know we've been saying it the last couple weeks, feels like football weather.
Yeah, and tonight we find out all the playoff seeding, so it's going to be a fun night and a lot of good lineups for the final week.
I think so, too, and I believe from getting what we've looked at, we should have a lot of teams hosting this time around. So
we cover a lot of good teams.
Which will be fun. We don't have to travel to like Wichita or Pittsburgh to go cover one of our teams, so that'll be nice. That'll be nice. Well, we got a really good and fun one for our game of the week up in good old Sabetha, Kansas. Got St. Mary's and, of course, the Blue Jays going at it tonight. 4-3 St. Mary's, 5-2 Sabetha. Katie, I know you talked to both coaches for our latest edition of the KPZ Pregame. What did Coach Marple and what did the Blue Jays have to say about what this matchup might entail?
So starting with St. Mary's, good old Bears. The interesting about both of these teams is that they both have first-year head coaches, but both coaches were previously on the staff before taking over as head coach. So they both have always had a good idea of how to run things, and we've seen the transition go pretty well for both because they both have records above 500. So starting with St. Mary's, they got off to a really hot start to start the season, winning their first 3 games, but then came into a bit of a standstill, losing 3 games in a row, but they were all very close one-score games, which means they were very winnable, and they were against really good teams. And they finally got back on track last week with a really big win over Council Grove. And reminder, Council Grove is really good. They're 5-2.
Yeah.
And before that, they were 5-1. So, yeah, that was huge. And like we said, they were all one-score games. And Coach Marple said, the biggest thing that matters this week is playoff standings, because I think it's obvious they're a lot better than their 4-3 record shows. So they definitely want to be able to host, and less likely to do that when you're below 500 or at 500. So they obviously want to move to 5-3 on the season to get a playoff game in St. Mary's. And another cool thing, these teams haven't met since 1986. So this is the Big East for you. It's bringing all these teams together. And they didn't even have to schedule a Big East team for this week. They could have gone out of conference, but they decided to stay in league and meet each other.
Well, I think the big thing, too, is both of these teams, obviously everybody makes the playoffs, but these are 2 teams, meaning Sabetha and St. Mary's, that could make a deep run, depending on who they run into. We know how loaded 2A is in our area, especially with Nemaha Central, Silver Lake, just to name a few. But I think the biggest thing, this stat says it all. If St. Mary's can start fast, like any coach and any player will tell you, that always normally goes in your favor. They're averaging almost 20 points a game in the first half. So if the Bears can get going, we know what Brady Hurlock can do with his legs. They got Corleone Holtz, they got Howie Rizak. They have a lot of different options within that offense. But we know, Kate, the big story with Sabetha is obviously losing 23 seniors. That is a lot. But
they have reloaded very well because they are 5-2 this season, and their only 2 losses have been, it was a 3-point game falling 12-9 to Perry-Lecompton in the second week of the season, and then they did get shut out 22-0 by Nemaha Central. But other than that, these Blue Jays have been flying. Get the pun there. They're just coming off a dominant win from last week, 49-6 over Oskaloosa. So they had that little hump in the second game of the week, but they've definitely gotten over it. And like I said, first-year head coach there. And he was kind of telling me, he's been there for a long time. The great thing about Sabetha is that they really do bleed faith family football, and they do have such rich traditions. So it's been ingrained in his mind for quite a while. So I think, they got off track for a little bit, but then they got right back on, and now they're doing really well.
I think if they can do this, if they can put up these kind of numbers every quarter, obviously most teams will be fine if you're putting up 49 points a game, but I think the big thing is they're outscoring their opponents 129-36. Obviously, the offense is progressing very well when, as coaches will always tell you, they want you to play your best football right about this time, because then you have about 4 or 5 games until the state championship. And so, in here, even since 2020, Sabetha has a 14-7 record in October games. So if that explains anything, they're very good in October. And I know, Katie, you had mentioned as well when you talked to Coach that they like playing in the colder temperatures, I guess, if you will.
They play very well in October. And that's the thing is, the best teams who are going to go really far in the postseason start playing their best football right now, which, as we can see, Sabetha has been. St. Mary's just did last week, so they got back on track. So it's going to be 2 teams that, bounced back from ugly losses and then got big wins, and then they're going to meet each other again. But Coach Marple at St. Mary's did tell me they've never faced an offense like Sabetha because Sabetha has been known for a long time for relying heavily on its ground game. But when Coach took over this year, he wanted to incorporate a lot more passing. And they have the quarterback to do it because their quarterback was starting last year. So that's one of the only guys who was not a senior that was starting last year. So they have the benefit of an experienced quarterback who's been a lot better at throwing the ball this season, and they are much more committed to the passing attack this year.
Well, I know it's funny, bringing out the college ball here, but Coach Higgins talking to him earlier this week, he said when the run game's working, it obviously opens up a little bit. I think if the passing game also is working, that opens up pretty much everything because you have a lot more weapons to go to, and especially if you have a running back who can obviously catch the ball in the backfield. So if you have both working as a team, because I know a lot of teams in our area will just run the ball, some teams will throw and run. So if you can get both of those clicking, you should, be pretty solid. But again, if you go up against a good defense and they stop everything, well.
Yeah, and Sabetha does have a very good defense. They've had 2 shutouts this season and 3 games where they've only allowed 6 points. So I think it's just going to come down to can St. Mary's start fast and start strong, because if they get stuck in a hole at halftime, they don't want to do that against Sabetha.
Exactly, and I think this will be a very fun game, should be a close game, as we've seen both teams have close games in their schedule. So I think this should be a fun one. Michaela Kelly will be there for us tonight, so this should be a fun one up there. She'll have pre- and post-game coverage, and of course after the game as well, so stay tuned for that. But this one here, if I'm not mistaken, has conference championship on the line here.
Ooh.
Because Seaman and DeSoto both 6-1. Seaman had a huge win last week against Basel Linwood to get them over that hump. They obviously have not yet played DeSoto. So if Seaman, if I'm not mistaken, wins this game, they win the UKC championship. So I believe this game means a lot to Coach Swafford and them guys over there for them to pull out this win. They've looked really good, and again, they beat Basel Linwood 28-14, and we are right here, just so I can confirm, can clinch the outright championship with a win. So there we go. And the Vikings are currently tied for the number 2 seed in the West Class 5 seed in that bracket, so they will definitely be hosting.
Yeah, Seaman will be hosting no matter what. And something I will add about DeSoto is that, yes, 6-1, they got into a pretty close shootout with Shawnee Heights a few weeks ago. Yes. Shawnee Heights, like we've said many times, their record does not reflect how good they are because all of their losses have been like one score, very close, high-scoring losses. So if Shawnee Heights and DeSoto can go as close as they did, and Seaman was able to kind of dominate Shawnee Heights a few weeks ago, it's got to give you some confidence about Seaman winning this game.
Oh, and two, I know you can never rely on last year, but up in that top corner, they beat DeSoto last year 31-28, and this is a fun offense, Katie. I've covered a couple of their games this year with Caden McKinney. He's only a junior, great running back. Obviously, Max Huston and Briar Finley are the 2 dynamic weapons on that offense, and whenever they take the top off, Briar's normally going to win those matchups when you're 6'4", 6'5", and with Huston, who played baseball, has got a pretty good arm. So I think if this offense can continue to click like they have been, their defense has been pretty solid. But again, you can't overlook a team that's also 6-1 looking for a conference championship. Yeah,
I think this is absolutely going to come down to how well Seaman's defense can perform, which Coach Swafford is a defensive-minded guy, so he likes to pride himself on how well his defense does. And I say that because DeSoto's offense is really good. They're averaging 50 points a game this season. And as it shows in the bottom left corner, in the last 2 seasons, DeSoto has scored over 50 points in a game 8 times. Did not mean to do that. We're skipping too fast. Go back. There we go. But yeah, I think if there is a team in recent memory, a Seaman team in recent memory that has what it takes to clinch the UKC championship, it's for sure this one with how much experience they have.
I believe so. And like you mentioned, Coach Swafford being a defensive-minded guy, I think this is going to be probably a high-scoring game. Coach Swafford probably doesn't want that.
Simply because DeSoto's offense is so good.
Exactly. So this might be that shootout. I don't know. It might be 7-0. Who knows?
Who knows?
But, of course, Seaman being at home, you would think to have a little bit of an advantage being at home. And would be nice to grab that trophy on their home turf for sure.
Absolutely. We'll keep an eye on that one. And has the Centennial League been clinched yet?
It should be. I'm not sure quite yet.
If Manhattan wins tonight, absolutely they do.
Absolutely they do. Being 7-0, I don't think the only... Yeah, I would believe if they win this, they for sure win. They're 8-0.
I don't know how they haven't yet, because I don't think anyone else in the Centennial League is coming close to that record, but I believe if Manhattan wins tonight, obviously they'll win the Centennial League. So conference
Absolutely.
implications.
Well, we remember last year's game, Katie, when Manhattan, I think they were, 16 in a row. Rule beat them last year at Rule, 35-28. That was a great game. I think they came out into the last play of the game. I remember when Lane Gillespie got the interviews after the game. That was a very emotional game for Washburn Rule because these are two heavy hitters in 6A.
And Manhattan has been getting the best of them in recent memory for the most part. So Washburn Rule getting that win last year meant a lot to the program and to the fan base, of course. But Manhattan is out for blood this year.
They're scary good. I mean, Katie, since we've been here, they've
won a state title.
Won a state title. Last year, they still obviously made a deep run in the playoffs. But this year, I think if this is a team that wants to win 2 out of 3, I think it could be this team.
Yeah.
I mean, they're loaded like they were a couple years ago. Carter Aslan's been great. Mario Davis has been great in the backfield. Obviously, J.J. Dunnigan is only a junior, but they have a lot of pieces. And as you see, enters the game tied for the number 1 6A seed in the West. So this is going to be a very fun matchup. And Manhattan owns an 11-game regular season winning streak. So hopefully we'll see if Washburn Rule can snap another streak of Manhattan in 2 straight years.
Yeah, I mean, Washburn Rule is coming off a bit of an ugly loss to Junction City last week. They just really couldn't get anything going on offense. But I think losses like that teach you a lot about yourself. So if anything, I think Tribe's got to be a little bit scared of the Junior Blues simply because they learned from those mistakes last week, and they're going to come back with fire this week.
I think so, and what we were just saying, Rule has handed Manhattan its last regular season loss, and that was back in 2023 when they won.
Yeah.
So,
not to mention Washburn Rule is going to want to keep at least a number 8 seed because if they go up to number 9 and they're no longer tied for 8 like they are right now, they will not get to host. So if they do keep that number 8 seed or even get higher to a 7 or a 6 or whatever, or lower, however you want, people like say different things, that would mean a lot so that they get to host a playoff game next week. But yeah, I'm gonna put a stamp down and say that I think the odds of seeing a Manhattan Derby 6A state championship game are very, very likely.
Very likely, yeah, and that would be you talk about a smash mouth football game again. Manhattan has had the better of Derby the last couple of years in a row, so.
Derby does have about the best player in the state right now at their tight end position, but I think Manhattan is an extremely well-rounded team at all areas.
And I know Derby beat Manhattan last year, so I know Manhattan's had the better of them in total matchups, but if that does happen, Manhattan's going to want to go out and beat them again. So this should be a fun one down in Manhattan. Jason Canander will be at that game, so if you see him on the sideline, say hello. Here's another good one for you over at good old Silver Lake, C.J. Hamilton Field.
Say hi to me.
Katie will be there. Silver Lake is 5-2, and so is Council Grove. So this is a pretty even matchup, both coming off losses, Katie. So both teams are going to want to win this one.
Yes, absolutely. And Silver Lake has not had the easiest of schedules. Neither has Council Grove. Both have proven time and time again both how good they are. And I think this is a very equal matchup. They're coming in 5-2. Osage City was our game of the week last week when they played Silver Lake, and that was maybe one of the best game of the weeks of the year. Maybe the War on 24. Silver Lake, you're just always a good game of the week,
Yes. Well, that game was close, too, until Osage City kind of pulled away late in that game.
That was close until the third quarter.
Yes, and Coach Pegram, has done pretty well. We know the success that Coach Hamilton has, the winningest football coach in the state of Kansas in terms of football. He's 19-7 since taking over for coach, and he's 2-1 in home games this season, outscored their opponents 103-83. So they know how to score in home games. So this should be fun for Silver Lake hosting a good Braves team who quarterback Luke Stewart has over 1,000 passing yards this year. Ace Monahan, he leads the team in rushing with 16 touchdowns, 771 yards. So now here's a cool stat too: 2-1 in road games, outscoring their opponents 106-33. So if these bottom 2 stats don't say anything, either this could be a really good game for Council Grove or be a really good game for Silver Lake.
Yeah, and plus I think this will definitely come down to how well Silver Lake can defend the run because Council Grove is more of a run-heavy team. Obviously, they do both really well since their quarterback has over 1,000 passing yards. But I think Ace Monahan is someone to be afraid of on the ground because he has 16 touchdowns through 7 games, plus almost 800 rushing yards, like we said. So I think it's really going to come down to if Silver Lake can kind of surprise them with the pass attack because they throw the ball so well with Dyson Schooler.
And I think, Ace Monahan, I know we've called his name a couple of times on Prep Zone this year, and every time we've called his name, they've been touchdowns.
Touchdown.
Rightfully so. But the last time these two teams met, Silver Lake won in 2011, 13 years ago, 55-31. That was obviously a long time ago.
I like when we get to see teams that haven't seen each other in a long time. I think it's always interesting.
Nothing like 1986, though.
Thank you, Big East, for merging and giving us these matchups again.
Yeah, nothing like 1986. Or what was the other one, Katie? A couple weeks ago that they haven't met. It was our first ever meeting. I can't remember that game.
I think it might have been at Jackson Heights and somebody.
It's something like that. They've never met before, and I'm like, that is.
We cover a lot of games.
We do. There's a lot of teams, a lot of good schools that we cover. If the remote will work for us, maybe.
There we go.
Maybe.
Can't be stopped. Speaking of Jackson Heights.
Love that. We always say we love that mascot. They're 7-0. They've scored 400 points in 7 games. They only give up 15.
1A should be shaking in their boots.
That is absolutely insane. 400 points and only giving up 15?
Yeah.
I would not want to play them right now.
No.
No. Wamigo's 6-1, and they haven't lost a home regular season game in over 3 years.
Boomtown is the place to play. Not if you're an opposing team, but
No.
if you're Wamigo, it's the place to play.
That is a very fun atmosphere over there, Katie. I know you've been to Wamigo several times for some games. And
Yeah, and they're hosting Abilene tonight, so I wouldn't be surprised if this ends with a 7-1 regular season record for Wamigo because they're so scary at home.
And I know Coach Moody would love that. And, well, we know we love our Axtell Eagles. 46-game win streak. They continuously just blow out teams and steamroll teams every
Everything's
week.
done at halftime. They're our first final score in on our scoreboard every single night because their games are always done at halftime. But they have a really good game this week
With Frankfurt,
up
6-1.
against Frankfurt, who is definitely that other competitor in 8-man D2. So that's going to be kind of a playoff type game where wouldn't be surprised if the two of them meet again in like sub-state.
I believe so.
Or even the state championship, who knows.
And that one's in Frankfurt tonight, so that should be
Not too
a
far
fun
of a drive
matchup.
for Axtell, so you know their entire town's probably going to show out in
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. That'll be actually a fun little small town
Yeah.
football, and sometimes those are sometimes the best games. But yeah, Jackson Heights, Wamigo, Axtell, you guys are catching our eye,
Can't
don't worry.
be stopped.
And they're still spooky good.
Spooky good. We're even closer to Halloween now.
Halloween's what a week.
Our digital manager, Isaac, you come up with the best graphics.
He just gave us a thumbs up, so we love you, Isaac. But just a couple other watch list games for you. Week 8 to close out the regular season. I'll be up there for Oskaloosa at Royal Valley. As we mentioned, Abilene at Wamigo.
We'll be there.
Hayden at Jeff West.
We'll be there.
Topeka High at good old Pittsburgh.
We won't be there, but we should have highlights.
We should have some highlights
Thanks
from
to
the
some
station.
friends outside.
At good old KOAM down in Pittsburgh. Linden over at Northern Heights. Leavenworth at Holton. That should be a interesting, fun matchup there. And McLouth over at the Onega Buffaloes. I love that. I love Buffaloes. I don't know. That's a fun mascot.
I like it. Piper is going to be at Topeka West. Vince will be there. Say hello.
Yes, I will be.
Or actually, I
No,
will
you
be there.
will be there, yes.
I will be there. I'm
One of
mixing
us will
up.
be there.
Rossville is heading to Wabunsee. We will have a camera there. Chapman's heading to Rock Creek. Shawnee Heights is on the road, paying a visit to Turner. Mission Valley is at Marantha Christian. Jackson Heights at Jefferson County North. Can't be stopped, those Cobras. And Nemaha Central is heading out to ACCHS.
That should be actually a really good game.
Yeah.
Jefferson County North coming off state championship last year, runner-ups. They're really good this year. That should be a very fun game. Jackson Heights over at Jeff County North. Another one we will be at is Osage City at Raleigh County. Osage City hopefully going to go undefeated at 8-0. We'll see if they go get that far. Junction City over at Emporia. Marysville at Clay Center. That should be another fun matchup. Caraparaville at Olpe. Bishop Ward at Santa Fe Trail. Hiawatha at Perry. And as we mentioned, Axtell at Frankfurt.
We've got a lot of good games to close out the regular season.
The Eagles and Wildcats. So, again, game of the week. St. Mary's, Sabetha, getting up in good old Sabetha, Kansas. Again, Michaela Kelly will have a live preview for us. And post-game at 10:15 during Kansas Prep Zone. We have a lot of fun games for you, as well as KU men's basketball. They start their exhibition with Arkansas. So
for all the marbles tonight.
Yeah, so basketball season starting. KU K-State soccer is also playing tonight. So we have a lot of fun stuff on a good old Friday night, and again, the last week of the regular season. Katie, this season has absolutely flown by.
It has flown by. I feel like, the weather didn't help because I
No.
just still feel like it's like the end of September right now, honestly. But believe it or not, we are here. We will have score updates throughout the night for you online on our scoreboard. Just head to our sports page and you'll find it there. And then, of course, come back at 10/10:15 for Kansas Prep Zone.
And if you didn't see the score yesterday, Highland Park did beat a 6-1 KC Washington team yesterday, 38-28.
Did they finally finish the game?
They did, but it was after probably 11:30 or more after that tsunami that happened
I'm
yesterday.
not gonna lie, I was walking my dog, and literally as soon as I got back into my apartment, 2 minutes later it started downpouring, and I was like, "We made it." We
Yeah,
made
that
it,
was.
Girl.
I remember when getting into the game, it was just that big black frontal
I
cloud.
saw lightning the whole time.
And I luckily got enough plays. They scored a touchdown, had a big run, had a fumble, so I was like, okay. And then Liam Keating with the Capital Journal sent me a video of, hey, this is what Hummer looks like right now. I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I
Yeah.
left because my umbrella would have not
No.
held that up with my camera. So
I don't think anything would have held that up.
no. So Highland Park, they're also 6-2, so they should host a game this year over at Hummer. So that'll be good for them. They're 6-2 on the season. But again, we will be back at 10 o'clock, 10:15 for Kansas Prep Zone. All the fun. Katie and I will be there, and hopefully you join us and close out the regular season with us, and then the playoffs next week. And we'll see you then.
Gonna be lots of fun. Adios.
Peace out.